Good afternoon. This is Ellen Crute, and today is June 24th. We are here today with the immediate past president, Jay Duskin, and the new president of the Richmond County Bar Association, Sheila McGinn. And we'll be conducting this interview together, and I will just give the opportunity to Jay and Sheila to introduce themselves first. Jay.
Yeah, hi, my name is Jay Duskin. I'm an attorney in Staten Island. I've had a civil practice, mostly landlord-tenant litigation for the last 33 years. And I have lived on Staten Island all my life, and I am the immediate past president of the Richmond County Bar Association.
Sheila?
Thank you. Sheila McGinn. I am an attorney here on Staten Island, and I've lived on Staten Island my whole life as well, like Jay. But I think my family's been here a little bit longer, Jay, than yours. But I practice civil litigation, and I am the current president of the Richmond County Bar Association.
So I think it's great. We have this unique opportunity today because not only you can speak about your personal experiences, but we can also dive into the Richmond County Bar Association and discuss that. But I guess I will start with my first question, and I will address your personal experiences. So Jay, why don't you start? Tell us about your personal experience when things shut down and everything just turned upside down.
So, like I said, I've had this practice for about 33 years, being in landlord-tenant court on a daily basis. And when it shut down, it was the first time that I wasn't getting up and going to civil court, landlord-tenant housing court, first thing in the morning to start my day. Went from 60 to 0 really, really fast. And at that point, once the court shut down and essential services, non-essential businesses had to shut down, that included us not being able to serve any kind of landlord-tenant proceedings, predicate notices, have our process servers working. So the result of that was that we had essentially no business at all because we were a week-to-week business. So it was pretty devastating.
And do you remember that last day when you went to court, and did you see anything that would indicate to you that the next day you would not come back? Did you observe anybody wearing masks, observing social distancing? How was your last day in court?
Well, actually, a few days before the last day, I was getting a sense that this was not going to work. The courts are very crowded. People are next to each other. And I started to get sensitive to social distancing. I stopped shaking hands. I stopped being closer to people. And I had mentioned to someone who was standing at the entrance to the well where the lawyers hang out in conference cases and try to work things out. And I said, can you please move? You're blocking an entrance and you're not providing any social distancing here. And the person got very upset. No one was wearing masks at this point. No one was social distancing, really. And there was a couple of encounters I had with another person who I just said, please, can you step back a little bit? I'm, social distance a little bit. And it wasn't pretty. And it was obvious to me that something had to change. And like the next day, we got the call that, the courts, the calendars are being adjourned and the courts are being closed, except for emergency matters. And we didn't really know what that meant at that point.
And Sheila, how about you? What was your personal experience?
My personal experience was I was in Manhattan a lot, and my last in-person meeting with about 30 people was March 10th. And it was a few hours, and it was in Midtown, and it was very difficult to do the social distancing in this meeting. And at that meeting, I didn't shake anyone's hands. I maintained a distance from people, got through the meeting, and then saw the writing on the wall, like Jay, that we would have to go to a remote workplace lifestyle, work life, for a considerable period of time. That was the last time I was in Manhattan at all, March 10th. And usually I'm in Manhattan quite often. And it was devastating.
I understand.
You know, I think one of the things, you know, was, I think it was the Friday, it was a Friday, and me and my wife always go out to dinner on Friday nights, and we were like, are we going out to dinner tonight? And we really stopped to think about it, and we were like, I'm not really feeling comfortable about this right now. And we decided not to go to the restaurant that we went to every Friday night.
I agree with you, Jay. We had to change that as well. It became a big debate in the household. Remember, everybody was having that conversation. Where are we going to do? How are we going to do this?
Right. And in both of your answers, you touched upon your professional aspects. Both of you had to stop working. So how would you describe the toll it took on your business? And what I mean is, like, Jay, for example, you stated that you stopped going to court, but what happened?
So part of my business also, my business has always been a week-to-week business. I don't take retainer agreements and have billable hours and mail out bills to people. I basically charge based on the job that needs to be done. And because I have a bulk business, I do a lot of cases. I can manage, instead of hourly fees, I can manage an estimate on a case that gives me a competitive pricing for my clients. They're not getting charged for every court appearance, for instance, because I'm splitting up that time with many cases. So for 33 years, I've been a week-to-week business. I rely on people coming in every week and retaining me and having this constant flow of business. And that flow stopped. My business stopped. My bank account emptied immediately. It was really something I never could have anticipated. The other thing I do is I have a per diem practice. And so my per diem practice, relies on attorneys from out of county who don't want to come into Staten Island or too busy or have, other calendars elsewhere, that ask me to cover their cases. So I have, I cover many cases for other law firms, and that stopped. That business was shut down. So I went, like I said, from 60, using a car phrase of speed, but really I went from all in to all out immediately. And so, government help was the only thing that could keep me afloat at that point.
Right. And I can imagine, because you also had employees, so you had to consider that as well. It's a huge change. Could you give me an example of changes that you needed to make at that moment to your practice?
So immediately we had a meeting. I have a very small firm. I have 2 employees and 2 lawyers, and we had a meeting, and we said, look, you guys better get ahead of the curve and apply for unemployment right away, because I'm only going to be able to pay you guys for like another week maybe. And they agreed. They applied for unemployment. Me and my partner applied for unemployment. Under the guidelines, you were actually, small partnerships were able to do that too. We applied for, there was some, an EIDL loan. There was the payroll protection money. And there was one other thing. There was an EIDL, like automatic, they gave you like $1,000 per employee. So I applied for everything. My accountant was amazing. He was calling me, sending me emails with the information that I needed to attach to every application, and told me what to do and set me up so that I got ahead of everything and was able to apply for things immediately. And that's really we planned, we took action, and we did it immediately upon knowing what was going on, because we knew this was going to be a while. And I knew personally, looking at my bank account, that I was not going to be able to maintain any kind of a business. I was not going to be able to maintain any kind of a business beyond a week, any money. I couldn't pay any bills. It was amazing. I'd never seen or could have ever imagined anything like that in my life.
And Sheila, what, if any, changes did you have to make?
Well, I think the biggest change I had to make was working remotely at home and doing all of my meetings virtually, based upon the insurance aspect of my business. So it was difficult, because I'm more of an in-person meeting type of individual, and I had to adapt quickly. And I think it was also very admirable of Jay and other colleagues of ours, how they were tackling, how they were handling their practices, and the balancing act that went to that. And I have to say, Jay, you handled a remarkable amount of stress due to that, because you had to pretty much take everything, pull it all together, and still run the Bar Association at that time. So that was a really really interesting scenario presented to you, and you just tackled it without effort. Another experience I seem to have had is that I miss going and seeing people and running into people in court, and it has been very difficult to catch up on those things on the collegial aspect besides the business aspect. So that's how it has affected me. But I have to say, for most of our colleagues, I think Jay and I would echo the same sentiment, that it has been an extremely difficult time for us overall.
I understand. And you touched upon something that I was going to dive into anyway. You said that Jay was summarizing information. And as a member of the Bar Association, I remember that information coming through. Because without that information, I would look at orders issued and I would not understand a thing. So tremendous help from Jay when he was, putting together all those letters to us. Jay, we might as well just jump into the Bar Association aspect of this interview, and can you just tell us how you did it? Because as Sheila just said, you've done an amazing job putting together all that information, processing it, and just constantly keeping us updated. What was that like?
So I'm part of a number of different email threads for the different practices that I have. There's a landlord thread, and there was I do traffic court work also. So there was this traffic court attorney thread, and there was real estate lawyer thread because we do some real estate. And I was seeing how people were just pining for some information and some guidance. They needed guidance. They needed someone to direct them into, to explain a directive or to direct them to resources. And as the Bar Association president, I felt an obligation to respond to those things. For other people who are asking me questions like, well, what are you going to do? What's the Bar Association going to do? And so I did my best to step up and communicate and used our email list. I think we had about close to 400 members at one point in time that are all on this email thread, all on the email list. So it was easy to communicate to a lot of people quickly. And that's what we did. Anytime a directive came out, we sent it out. Anytime some information came about federal assistance for small firms, we put it out. Anytime there was a Zoom CLE to help people do remote depositions, we got it together. And it just so happens, I do know a lot of people, and people knew that I was the president, and people were funneling me information, and then I funneled it out to our members. And it didn't, it was a lot of work at some points, but I had no work to do other than that. So it was a full-time job for a while, but I was in the situation and position where I could handle the full-time job because my other work really wasn't interfering with it. So kind of made it easy.
And Sheila, you still had a full-time job. So you knew that you were about to be appointed a president.
Yeah.
What did...
Elected.
Yeah, well, at that point you were the president-elect, so you knew that you were about to become the president. Mm-hmm. And what went through your mind about all these updates? Did you have any concerns, fears about coming into this?
Yeah, I mean, the concern was, can I keep up with Jay Duskin? And I'm learning I can, Jay. I'm learning I can. But you know, Jay had set up the framework for me, so it was easy to me to follow what was going on, especially with the updates, the weekly newsletter. And I think the one mantra that Jay and I share is that we're really concerned about our colleagues, their families, their friends, their livelihoods. And I think what we have to keep doing, and as Jay had started doing, is reminding them we're there, we're here to get the information out, we're here to share everything. And if you need something or you have an idea, share back with us. Because that's what the Bar Association is about, right, Jay? It's about the sharing, being collegial, and it's also about our sustainability. We're not a bar association without our members, and we need them a lot, and they mean a lot to us. And I think what Jay did was reinvented the presidency, in a sense, to communicate more through technology. He had no choice, and I will continue that.
And I had some guidance. You know, I leaned on past presidents for guidance for certain things, and they made certain suggestions. People, you know, as a board, our executive board met many times over Zoom.
Yep.
We had our board meetings over Zoom, and I listened and I followed the guidance that I got. You know, putting out weekly updates and putting out information. That was, you know, on a daily basis that was needed. But I kept hearing from these email threads and stuff, what is the Bar Association doing for us? Or what is the Bar Association? Like they wanted, these were intelligent, long practicing attorneys not knowing what to do. There were people who just needed someone to tell them what to do and interpret things for them. And you know, I listened to that and I'm like, I have to, if that's what they want from the Bar Association, we have to make ourselves relevant. We have to make ourselves necessary, especially if we want to continue existing in the future. And so we had a really good presence, and it was a team effort, but there was a big presence by the Bar Association throughout this. I got so much feedback from people appreciating, just letting them know that we were listening and communicating. And even if we didn't have anything to communicate, we were still letting them know we were here. And it served as a lot of comfort for people. It was really interesting. But people just wanted someone to make sure that someone was looking out for them and was going to give them information if information came out, that they were going to get it. And they were getting it through the Bar Association.
And Jay, also, what we did do was recognize the court personnel who have been sticking it through in the courthouse, working so hard without any accessibility to food, and buying lunch for them a few times, and going in there and saying thank you to the court officers, the janitors, the court staff, the court personnel who've been there. And they're working really hard to keep us safe. They really are. And that was part of the Bar Association effort as well.
And that's what the Bar Association always has done. We've been a liaison between the practicing attorneys and the courts and the court staff and the court people to make sure our relationships are always good and always respectful, and that we always appreciate what everyone does. And so what we did in on the whole was, you know, or in summation, is that we looked out for our own members. We gave them the information and guidance and help to get to apply for their loans. We even did a survey to see who was successful in getting these loans and what banks they used and what was the best avenue to getting through everything, which I found was very helpful for everyone to know that it looked like everyone ended up in the end getting the help that they needed. And that we also let the court system know that we're here for them. You know, we let the administrative judges and the supervising judges know that we're here to be a partner in trying to figure this whole thing out.
Yeah. And Jay, also, oh, sorry, Jay. Also, we're very lucky to have the members that we have. Some of the committee meetings that were done on Zoom were very instructive, interactive. The creative solutions were being thrown around. Some of the meetings that you were running, it was great. It was great.
I think we stepped up. You know, we had Law Day, virtual Law Day, which was magnificent. You know, we started doing yoga for our members for free, and cooking classes for our members for their mental health purposes. You know, it was really important with Zoom to people connecting. We the new lawyers did game night, and I think a trivia night or something. So, you know, there was a lot. You know, we stayed connected. I think that was the most important thing people could do at this point when they were isolating, that they still felt connected, and they still felt connected to other lawyers and to the Bar Association, even though they weren't allowed to go into their offices and they didn't have any work to do for the most part.
Yeah.
And I guess I have one last question to each of you, and afterwards I will give you an opportunity to say anything else that you would like to say. But I'm just gonna go ahead and what advice do you have for I guess practicing attorneys after you've been through this change? I apologize.
I can say
had a technical difficulty that I needed to address. So yes, what advice would you give to a practicing attorney after we just been through all this?
well, you know, I mean, I look at my own practice, and you know, one is I'm very fortunate. My wife works and continue to work throughout this process, and without her and without the federal help, I would have been in trouble. And there's a lot of lawyers who are much younger than me who don't have the stability that I have, that are, I think, struggling terribly right now. I think our lawyers are, you know, we are, Staten Island is a group of sole practitioners or small partnerships, and they don't have big firms, and they don't have big bank accounts, and we really are day-to-day, week-to-week type of businesses, and we can't afford slow weeks or slow months. You know, and this was 3-4 months of slow work, you know. One is you have to stay flexible. I don't think you can put all your cards in all your eggs in one basket. A lot of my eggs are in one basket, and I could see how it all can go away. I mean, the reopening of the housing court there's still no plan. They still don't know when this is going to happen and how we're going to have proceedings filed and heard. So it's still a ways away before my business can return to any kind of normal or new normal. So one is always be flexible and be ready to reinvent yourself. I mean, try to put away for a rainy day. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do as sole practitioners. But really, I think diversify. Make sure that you have different parts of practice, that if anything like this ever happens, you have something else you can fall back on, and always be ready to reinvent yourself.
Sheila?
I think to follow up with Jay is this, and he said a very powerful word, it's reinvent. And we're all going to have to reinvent ourselves. Young attorneys like Jay and I who have been practicing for a certain span of years, and especially the older attorneys are being affected because of technology. And I think it comes down to, the advice I would give is embrace technology, ask questions. It's important to do that. And if you have advice or creative solutions, we welcome that. Bring it to us, because we want everybody to be a part of this. We're all a part of this together. And it's a work in progress. We'll get there, but it's a work in progress.
Okay, well, thank you so much. If you have anything else to add on this topic, please. Jay?
I just want to say I was involved in a lot of meetings with a lot of different bar associations, with Brooklyn, New York, statewide, and there was some agencies and groupings that wanted, say, like, what are we doing for all these people affected by COVID? What are we doing for you know, the general public and stuff? And I don't think we're even there as to what we can do for them. we're still really focused on what we can do for each other right now. I mean, the small law practice on Staten Island has been devastated by this COVID thing, that we haven't been able to open offices. We don't sustain ourselves without going to court on a constant basis and having clients come in to see us. And even with technology and remote, it's one thing if you can process these cases and file new files and do things, but it's been but we don't have that right now. And it's been absolutely devastating for so many lawyers in our association. And so we're focusing on what we can do to help our members at this point in time. You know, what resources we have out there, what kind of, you know, backup we can give them, anything we can do. So I think it's really important for a bar association, especially a local bar association, to focus on its membership and to focus on how we can help them get through this nightmare. So I think that's important.
I agree, Jay. And I think it's also important coming out of that is what we've learned in the past couple of months when you were president and now I'm president, is that we can lean on each other, we can provide support to each other, and we need to get to a point where everybody's back at work. And that's just something we have to keep focusing on with our membership. We have to. We don't, I mean, Jay, I don't think you and I would ever want to wish this on any other executive board or board of directors ever from here on in the Richmond County Bar Association. The impact that it has had on our membership, on the psyche, on families and friends has been very difficult to be a part of and to watch. And we have to remain strong and fight for our members. We have to.
And one thing about the Bar Association is we are all a family, and we know each other's families and children and stuff like that. And we have been very fortunate that on the whole, everyone has been healthy. You know, we've had very few losses, thank God. Very few serious illnesses, thank God. And that's the one thing that gives us strength as well, is to see that we're all maintaining our health and our mental wellness. And as long as we have that, like my father always said, you always can work, you know, you can always go back to work and find something to do and make some money. But if you don't have your health, then you know, it's very difficult. So thank God for that.
Yeah, and Jay, I think we would be remiss in not thanking Ellen for being part of this Historical Society of New York Courts project to document what's going on with our membership and overall the impact on our Staten Island law firms here, and how are we going to get back on our feet. I mean, this is history, and it has to be preserved, and it has to be carried forward, and it has to act as a reminder how we treat one another and how we support each other through the remainder of our legal careers and our lives. So thank you, Ellen.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. You're doing a great job.
It's actually my honor for those same reasons that Sheila just mentioned, because we are creating history here. And in a few years, we're going to look back and we're just going to see what we did. And, you know, it's going to be far, far away, but at the same time, this is the present and we are recording this. So, and I thank you guys so much. You have provided invaluable information. Do you have anything else that you would like to mention?
I think we're good. I think we covered it all. Thank you.
I think so too. Well, then I thank you so much for your time. Thank you for doing this.
Have a good evening.
Be well.
Thank you.